After Stephen died, I realized I was just a substitute for his first love. Yet I had been pampered by him like a beloved housewife. For 40 years, I never cooked, did any housework, or learned to handle basic things. My daughter scolded me for being too spoiled, calling me a clueless pig. She said I wasn't as trendy as the woman her dad liked and kicked me out of the house. Only after leaving did I realize I couldn't hail a cab, connect to Wi-Fi, or even locate the payment code on my phone. Later, I learned how to use different apps, do yoga, go live, and cook. Occasionally, I even went square dancing with some old guys. Just as I was thriving, my husband crawled back from the grave. He showed up with red-rimmed eyes, dragging our daughter along and begging me to come home. I gave them a surprised look. My daughter? Sorry, I only got this one right here. As for my husband, he's been dead for years. The grass over his grave is 2 meters tall now. After I stepped out of the villa, the rain was still pouring down. I stood on the side of the busy road, clutching an umbrella in one hand and a suitcase in the other, completely dazed. Although I was set on leaving the city, being alone in the bustling traffic still left me feeling a bit lost. After all, I hadn't left home alone once in 40 years since marrying Stephen at 20. But now, whether I wanted to or not, I had to leave. Maybe because of the rain, there were hardly any taxis around. Even though I tried to wave them down, none stopped. Because all the taxis were taken. Perhaps seeing me trying to hail a taxi, a passerby couldn't stand it and reminded, "Auntie, use a ride-hailing app. The driver who accepts your request will get here quick." I didn't have the app and had no clue how to use it. Even though it was a bit embarrassing, I asked anyway, "Young man, I don't know how to use the app. Can you teach me?" The guy looked skeptical but muttered, "You're around my mom's age. How come you don't know this?" "Fine, I'll show you." He taught me carefully, and I worked hard to pick it up. Suddenly the girl beside him whispered something into his ear. He looked at me in shock and blurted out, "Holy shit. No way. It's actually you?" Then he burst out laughing. I knew even an old lady couldn't be this dumb. "Turns out you're that spoiled granny from the internet." Being called a spoiled granny, I was startled and confused. After I kept pressing him, the guy finally showed me a short video. The video showed Stephen spoiling me in our daily life, with my daughter ranting beside us. See? I wasn't lying. My mom is 60 and still can't even handle basic stuff herself. I'm not kidding, I always have to get my dad to work the TV at home. I wanted to argue that last part was over the top, but my lips just quivered without making a sound. In this internet age, isn't this stuff exactly what people want to see? The video racked up over 100,000 likes, with tens of thousands of comments flooding the section. Almost every comment was bashing me as a pampered wife. The top comment read, "How is this a pampered wife? At her age, she's more like a spoiled granny." It even popularized the terms spoiled granny and pampered wife, so much so that they swept through the online literature world. Back then, Stephen truly took care of me meticulously. Although he had a company to run, after we got married he handed off most work to his team. Even for meetings, he'd just hop on a video call. Occasionally he'd drop by the office, but mostly stayed glued to my side. He said he fell for me at first sight and was head over heels by the second meet. Back then, I always felt like he was looking through me at someone else. But his thoughtful care and the way he kept telling me he loved me made me gradually let go of the idea. After all, who can fake loving someone deeply for 40 whole years? I kept telling myself I was just thinking too much. Looking back, he said he liked my long straight black hair, so I never touched my hairstyle again. Even when my hair started turning gray with age, I still made sure to dye it black. He also made me eat more of the carrots and tomatoes he cooked himself, even if I didn't like them one bit. Everything had an ulterior motive. Long straight black hair was his first love's favorite hairstyle, and carrots with tomatoes were her top picks. Even the stuffed toys piled by the bedside were his first love's favorites. In hindsight, I was the stupid one. Blinded by this so-called love. It wasn't until Stephen's funeral that I saw a woman who looked just like me and finally understood. No, I'm the one who looks 70% like her. The funny thing is, even though I knew the truth, even after that woman claimed ownership and said Stephen was just using me as a replacement, I kept insisting none of it mattered anymore. But I don't know why even now, when I look back, there's still this dull ache in my chest. Perhaps even heaven agreed I should leave this heartbroken city. I quickly got a ride to the high-speed rail station. I didn't know where to go. Thinking maybe I could find somewhere with year-round spring weather far from here, I settled on Kunming. Unfortunately, the line at the ticket counter was way too long. Seeing the long line, I hesitated. Perhaps sensing my impatience, someone dressed like station staff approached and said, "Auntie, the line at the ticket counter's super long. If you're in a hurry, just book online, no need to collect tickets, swipe your ID card at the gate." It was indeed convenient, but for me, it wasn't. Looking at the steps for buying tickets online posted nearby, and the very first one already had me stuck. I needed to scan the QR code with WeChat but had no idea where to open the scanner. Seeing how clumsy I was, the staffer frowned and reached for my phone. I handed him my phone and he handled purchasing the Kunming ticket for me. After he was done, the staffer handed my phone back to me. A bystander muttered under their breath, "If you're old and clueless, don't go around causing trouble. Why not give youngsters a break?" I looked over, and the young man snorted coldly. "What are you staring at? Useless old hag, I'm talking to you." Maybe because I hadn't eaten all day, I suffered from low blood sugar again. Before I could retort, the whole world started spinning. Without thinking, I reached into my pocket for candy, only to find it empty. When Stephen was alive, he'd always slip a few candies into my pockets. After he was gone, I even forgot to keep up with it myself. Looks like they were right, I'm really useless. As I was about to faint, a candy was slipped into my mouth. Then, a gentle soothing female voice spoke up, "Auntie, I'm a doctor. You're having low blood sugar. Here, open your mouth and take this candy first." When I came to, I found myself already sitting on a chair in the waiting room. My head was leaning on a young woman around 25. Right then, her eyes were red and she stared at the chat window on her phone. I didn't mean to peek, but my eyes caught those two messages when I glanced over. "She's back. She's back. We're done." Although I'm not exactly up with the trends and don't know much about smartphones, I'm not dumb enough to miss what those messages meant. When the young woman noticed I was awake, she glanced my way. She hurriedly turned off her phone and casually wiped her teary eyes. Then she flashed a warm smile. "Auntie, you're awake. How do you feel?" I told her I was feeling better and thanked her. Everyone has their own story, and so do I. Seeing she didn't want to talk about it, I pretended not to notice. Her name was Sophia, and during our chat I discovered she was also heading to Kunming. Not only were we taking the same train, but we also had seats next to each other. When she found out I didn't know how to use a smartphone, she seemed pretty surprised. Then she kindly walked me through it step by step. Seeing how patiently she taught me, I couldn't help but feel a touch of emotion. I've lived this long, and even my own daughter never had the patience for this, yet some stranger taught me so kindly. Maybe because the journey took so long, we gradually opened up and ended up having a heartfelt conversation. To my surprise, not only were our journeys alike, but our experiences were nearly identical too. The difference was, I didn't learn about Stephen's first love until I became a widow in my old age. And she threw herself into love at 18, only to find out 2 years later that she'd been living as someone's replacement. At that moment, two souls 40 years apart once again found solace in each other. Sophia suddenly grabbed my hand and declared, "Auntie, let's live together." When she said that, my first instinct was naturally to say no. After all, after Stephen passed away, I used to think I wouldn't last much longer either. He was only 6 years older than me and couldn't escape life's inevitable trials of aging, sickness, and death, let alone me. I didn't want to burden a young person with my aging body that would only grow sicklier with time. Even after I turned her down gently, her attitude remained firm. "Mom, from now on, I'm your daughter." Sophia was a doctor who had asked to be transferred to Kunming. She had a place here, not downtown, but in a quieter area. In front of the house was a small courtyard where, despite our neglect, the flowers and plants thrived surprisingly well thanks to the favorable environment. After we arrived, we made the decision that very night. She'd go to work, and I'd open a flower shop selling flowers offline while keeping up with trends by hosting live streams to teach flower arranging and sell them online. Although Stephen had spoiled me as a pampered old lady, I still loved flower arranging. After decades of doing this, I'm no master, but I'd say I'm pretty darn good. As for live streaming, I was sure that with Sophia's help, even if I didn't get it on the first try, I'd get the hang of it after a few tries. Luckily, live streaming wasn't that hard. The business was tough at first, each step a struggle. But thanks to my top-notch flower arranging skills and persistence, I'd gained tens of thousands of followers within a year and a half. Although it wasn't enough to make us rich, it let us buy whatever we wanted without a second thought. Until one day, an unexpected visitor showed up at the flower shop. It was a vaguely familiar figure. At first I thought I was seeing things. It wasn't until the old man's face gradually came into focus that I realized this wasn't a dream but reality. It was Stephen, the one who was supposed to have died from a heart attack. My heart twisted. But the moment our eyes met, I kept my cool. I suppressed my hoarse voice and asked casually, "Picking a bouquet for your wife? A birthday, or some anniversary?" Today wasn't Valentine's Day or any special occasion. After a year and a half of living, I'd learned a thing or two about how the world works. When I asked, the old man looked up at me. He gaped, stuttered, "Just browsing," and scurried off. I was sure it was Stephen. The heart attack story was a lie, his death was all faked. For that woman, Stephen didn't just walk out on me, he even threw away the G family's 100 billion fortune without blinking. What I didn't expect was, ever since that flower shop encounter, I kept running into Stephen around my neighborhood. Even if I couldn't make out his face clearly, just catching sight of that familiar figure from afar, the one I'd spent decades with, was enough to know it was him. I was a bit curious and couldn't be bothered to keep up the act. The next time I spotted Stephen snooping around, I decided to confront him head-on. I caught him looking around and stepped in front of him. "Mr. G, why aren't you home with your wife instead of snooping around my little flower shop?" Probably not expecting to get caught, Stephen, always so calm and dignified in my memory, now looked flustered. "Don't tell me it's just a coincidence. I've spotted you around these past few days." This time, he finally gathered his courage. "Val, maybe we should talk." I stared at him without speaking. He gulped and tried again. "I know I messed up, but there's stuff I gotta explain." I didn't really want to hear about his dusty old baggage with his first love. But seeing the earnest look in his eyes, I wondered what lie he was spinning this time. I nodded and motioned him to sit, arranging flowers while listening to his story. "I never wanted to lie to you. After all, we've spent most of our lives together. Dying might be been painful for you, but better than..." I had to hold back a laugh. "Better than you ditching your wife and kids in your 60s to chase some new flame, huh?" I asked casually. "Stephen, not wanting to hurt me was just your excuse. What you really wanted was to keep your image intact while staying with your true love. Funny how the world's so big yet so small. Never thought you'd bump into me here, did you?" Perhaps I hit a nerve. Stephen opened his mouth but didn't say a word. "Go. I'll pretend you're dead, and you can act like we never met." After I dismissed him, Stephen didn't press further. He staggered up from the chair and hobbled out unsteadily. Watching his retreating figure, I suddenly realized Stephen had aged so much more in just a year and a half. Even at nearly 70, he looked like he was only in his 50s. Now, if you said he was over 70, nobody would bat an eye. He finally gets to be with his beloved first love for the rest of his life without any regrets, so why does he look so miserable? "Mom, who was that man just now? Why were you crying?" Sophia's voice snapped me back to reality. My fingers brushed my eye and I realized I was actually crying. Seeing me like this, Sophia asked softly, "Mom, is that Mr. G?" I nodded, didn't he hold back, and told her all about our talk. Sophia took my hand and said, "Mom, I know why." It turned out that even before I did, Sophia had already noticed the old man who often hung around the flower shop. Out of curiosity and her own past experiences, Sophia pieced it together. Worried about my safety, she made some inquiries and soon got the full picture. It turned out that after moving to Kunming, the two did enjoy a fairly happy life, leaving together at sunrise and returning home at sunset. Unfortunately, old Stephen wasn't as full of vigor and stamina as his younger self. Plus, after faking his death and changing his identity, he ended up just another ordinary guy with nothing to do and not even a pension to his name. But his first love, Amanda, was different. She was widowed in her old age, leaving half her estate to the kids and keeping the other half for herself. Although it wasn't much, it was enough for a cozy retirement. Additionally well-maintained, she stayed slim with a delicate charm. When she was young, many suitors chased her, and in her old age, a queue of grandpas lined up behind her. Every day when she strolled in the park, many dance partners would flock to invite her, some silver foxes even younger than her first love with higher pensions. Over time, Amanda grew disgusted by Stephen's elderly odor and grumbled about him being less romantic than smooth-talking old Wong from next door. Without a pension, he couldn't offer emotional fulfillment and was flat broke too. After explaining all this, Sophia looked at me, hesitating to speak. I said, "Sophia, I know what you're thinking. He doesn't regret faking death and losing me, he regrets abandoning everything without getting what he wanted. Don't worry, I won't look back. I promise. After all, at my age, I see through romance way clearer than youngsters ever could. If there's no love, there's no love. Better to make a clean break than stay stuck torturing myself." I went down to the park. From afar, I spotted Amanda encircled by a crowd. She had a slim figure, wearing a pink low-cut crop top that exposed her midriff with a white cardigan over it, paired with beige wide-leg pants featuring a thigh-high slit and high heels. A bunch of grandpas were totally captivated, staring wide-eyed, while Amanda danced her heart out with a sprightly old man. Sometimes she was lifted high by the old man, other times pressed tightly against each other, gazing into each other's eyes, their daring dance moves wowing the crowd. Lots of people were filming with their phones, and even I was blown away by her moves. I had to admit, compared to me, Amanda's life in her golden years was way more colorful and lively. As for Stephen, he stood there with a tense face, staring hard at the dancing couple. As the song ended, he finally stepped forward, but before he could reach her, other old men crowded around. Shoved to the outskirts of the crowd, he seemed about to speak up, but remembering he wasn't anyone to her, could only stand awkwardly. Indeed, life didn't go his way. But just as I thought. I didn't go back to the park to join the fun. Instead, Stephen started showing up at my door all the time. Sometimes when the wholesale flowers arrived, he'd rush to help me move them. Sometimes he'd notice the mess of stems and petals from my flower arranging and help me clean up. Sometimes he'd show up with a lunchbox, saying he'd made my favorite sweet and sour pork. It turned out he knew what I liked to eat, but simply couldn't be bothered to remember or make it. Unfortunately, I can not only cook now, but I'm actually pretty skilled at it. Looking at the lunchbox he was holding, I opened my own. Sweet and sour pork's too greasy. I haven't liked that stuff for ages. Now I eat my own, cooking healthy and nutritious. He still showed up often, but I stopped turning him away. In the third year of Stephen's fake death, he finally felt the brutal slap of reality. Penniless and kicked out by Amanda, he finally called his daughter. Unfortunately, the daughter he raised refused to acknowledge him, saying her father had died 3 years ago. Stephen, undeterred, somehow got reporters to announce he was the former president of G Group. However, everyone knew that Stephen, the former president of G's Group, had long passed away, and they'd all attended his memorial service themselves. Many people came forward to testify that this Stephen was merely a lookalike imposter. Even his daughter posted the death certificate online, sobbing while denouncing this imposter's shady intentions. Stephen couldn't prove he was himself. After being mocked online, he fell back into depression. Meanwhile, I, once dismissed as a fragile woman, became the talk of the internet again, all because Stephen claimed he wasn't dead. I was crowned the happiest woman online, bar none. I rode the wave and gained hundreds of thousands of followers for my flower shop's account. With fresh and generously sized bouquets, orders poured in nonstop. I had to hire some help to keep up with running the shop. With this wave of traffic and steady business operations, I made a killing. I was swamped and didn't even have the mind to check if Stephen still visited by the flower shop every day like he used to. Until a few months later, Stephen showed up before me with his daughter. Gone was his weary, dressed in a sharp tailor-made suit, he shed his ordinary old man image and morphed back into the cocky, overbearing Stephen everyone remembered. This time, he showed up with his daughter, eyes red, begging me to come home. I looked at them in surprise. Daughter? Sorry, but the only one I have is right here behind me. As for my husband, he's been dead for years. The grass on his grave is 2 meters tall by now. Stephen was stunned. He paused before calling out, Val, I know I messed up. What do I gotta do to get your forgiveness? His daughter's face twisted at that moment. Mom, at your age, why are you still acting like this? Yeah, Dad messed up, but he was just trying to make up for things he missed out on when he was younger. Besides, if a woman hasn't managed to keep her husband's heart after 40 years, don't you think she's got some problems too? I admit, my daughter was brought up by Stephen, so it's no wonder she's close to him. But her bald-faced lies making excuses for her dad were just laughable. I slapped her hard. Shut up. Since I walked out of the G household, we're done. You say I'm at fault? Then let me ask you, if your son-in-law kept a mistress outside, would that be your problem too? With that, my daughter burst into tears. She covered her face and snapped at Stephen, Dad, look at Mom. How could she say something so cruel? Screw it, I'm done having a mother like this. She stormed off and left Stephen standing in front of me. I took a deep breath and told him to scram. You too. This place ain't for anyone named G. I figured after our last fallout, Stephen wouldn't show up again. After all, he successfully resurrected his life, regaining both status and reputation. I figured with his finances no longer tight, all he needed was to spruce himself up a bit, and his first love would come back to him. But to my surprise, Stephen started showing up at my door again regularly since that day. He was always dressed neatly, standing quietly at the door and peeking inside. Sometimes he carried flowers, other times he brought gifts. But most of the time he'd just stand there quietly watching me, smiling the whole time. I ignored him, but he kept coming day after day for a whole year, turning into this quirky little landmark at my flower shop. Someone took a video and it blew up online instantly. Many young people can't help but marvel at how romantic, persistent, and loyal the elderly are, while their own generation flip-flops like there's no tomorrow. The internet has no memory. They affectionately called Stephen the cute little old man and me the stubborn little old lady. They couldn't figure out why someone my age was still so fussy, and refused to accept the old man's confession. I didn't respond. Even though he saw me as a substitute, he'd taken care of me meticulously for decades. I kept the truth to myself to leave him some dignity. However, as more and more people started coming to my flower shop to check out Stephen and take videos, so my shop and livestream account took a hit. Some radical young people flooded my account with hateful comments, while others took it further by deliberately ordering flowers from my livestreams just to maliciously return them. The flowers got all beat up from being shipped back and forth for days, couldn't use them at all. Just like that, I lost over $100,000 in no time. So, to get some peace, I temporarily shut down my live streams and stuck to selling flowers in store. But then, another story quietly crept onto the hot search list. Stephen's identity and our 40-year marriage were both exposed. What followed was the exposure of how he faked his death, abandoned everything for his unforgettable first love. Netizens who were just here for the tea flipped sides and came for Stephen. He went from a cute little old man to a total scumbag, while I became the humiliated, lonely old lady drifting alone in a strange land. A popular blogger with amazing acting skills looked into my past, tearing up while telling the story on camera. They shared my tragic past of growing up without parents, and how Stephen's first love went for a wealthier guy and left him behind. They told how after being abandoned, Stephen never got over his first love and treated me as a substitute, he lifting me up to the clouds, then shattered me to the ground. In short, this storyline was indeed spot on but turned out even more soap opera level dramatic than I'd ever imagined. But that's all in the past now. Even when netizens and the video uploader said they were crying their eyes out, I still felt completely numb. Perhaps the video blew up so much that it started affecting with Stephen's life. Since the attention blew up, he hasn't made a single appearance. My flower shop was bustling again. In fact, business was even better than before. Some netizens suggested I switch careers, since running a flower shop isn't super profitable, especially when I'm so particular about quality and presentation, which really cuts into the margins. Some businesses reached out asking me to promote their products live on stream, but I turned them all down. I just want to keep to my own little corner and live a quiet life. But life is never smooth sailing. Amanda turned up just as the hype was dying down. This is the third time I've seen her. Unlike the last time I saw her in the park, she now wore an elegant cheapao with her jet black hair neatly pinned up, sweeping into my flower shop with pure disdain in her eyes. I thought this was some big fancy flower shop, turns out it's just a tiny operation. I didn't acknowledge her. Amanda kept casually roaming around the flower shop. Finally, she said, "Never thought he'd actually get a stand-in. You kinda looked like me when you were younger, but now that you're older, you're even more of a copy. Pity a knockoff's always a knockoff. Wanna know why he crawled back to you?" Without turning around, I answered, "I don't need to know." Perhaps my indifference pissed Amanda off. She glared and snapped, "You need to know this. Listen, well, he only came crawling back to you because I gave him the cold shoulder. You've always been my replacement, yesterday, today, forever. Since you've been acting all high and mighty, keep that act up. Don't you dare take him back. And Stephen? Believe it or not, watch me snap my fingers and see him come begging like a puppy." I listened quietly as she spoke, my hands still busy arranging flowers. Netizens in the live stream exploded. Netizen A, "Holy shit, who's that? How the hell is she so damn cocky?" Netizen B, "Need to ask? That homewrecker. These two deserve each other." Netizen C, "Granny, slap her. If you don't do it, I'll step in." Besides these comments, the entire feed was flooded with people trashing her. Seeing her about to leave after the threats, I casually remarked, "This is still live. Care to rephrase that and try again?" Amanda was taken aback. "Valentina, you did this on purpose, didn't you? I can't believe you'd be so shameless." With that, she made a grab for my phone, but I immediately flipped it face down on the table and slapped her across the face. "Listen up, whatever happens between you and him is none of my business. If you can snag your man, do it properly. Coming here to throw shade, you that insecure?" Whether she felt guilty or not, Amanda slunk away after I tore into her. The popularity that had died down climbed back into the top 3 after Amanda made some remarks during her livestream. Netizens dug up Amanda's identity and even tracked down her short video account. When netizens discovered she was the auntie dancing in the park, they flooded the internet with clips of her flirty moves and steamy interactions with various partners. Besides her flirty dance moves in the park, there were plenty of shady meetups happening off the dance floor too. For instance, she was spotted hitting hot springs with various old men and checking into hotels, living it up way too hard for a woman her age. Additionally, her vibrant dance outfits earned her the playful nickname Auntie Blossom among netizens. The once slim, well-kept fashionable auntie who danced beautifully and was adored by netizens turned into everyone's laughingstock. Many people turned her into memes with captions like "Come here to tease her." Netizens called for Stephen and Amanda to stay locked down and quit bugging me, the little old lady. It was after someone online mentioned it that I decided to file for divorce from Stephen. After getting the lawyer's letter, Stephen came to me again. This time, instead of lingering outside, he stepped right into the flower shop. His eyes were filled with guilt and reluctance when he looked at me. "Val, I heard what Amanda said. I was being an idiot. There was a time I did use you as her substitute, someone to fill her place beside me. But now I see you're truly one of a kind. Those years with you were real, my feelings genuine. Val, 40 years, 40 damn years. If there was no love, how could I have stayed this long?" I stopped what I was doing and asked, "What's the point now? Or was I not clear enough?" "Amanda was right, you only remembered me because she dumped you. If it wasn't for your disgusting behavior making her stop caring, or you finally seeing her true colors, would you even remember me? If you told me all this 3 years ago, I might be believed you, but not anymore." That night, while tidying up the shop before closing, I spotted Sophia chatting with a man by the roadside. Even under the dim street light, I could still spot tears glistening in her eyes. I couldn't catch their conversation, but after they parted ways, Sophia came over to me. They just got married and he was diagnosed with late-stage cancer. The doctors say he's got 6 months left at most. Oh, and that woman's gone. I'm actually pretty happy about it. Though she claimed to be happy, her eyes were red-rimmed. I asked, "Really happy?" She nodded and finally threw herself into my arms, choking back tears. "I should be happy, but I don't know why it hurts so much here." She pointed to her chest and then her eyes. "I can't stop crying. It's actually for the best. Karma's a bitch, and he totally had it coming." I was a bit worried about her. "You sure?" "Really, I swear. After this cry, if I shed another tear I'm a dog. After all, we loved each other for decades. Even if it was just an old dog I'd raised for years dying, I'd still feel awful, you know?" I nodded, gently patting her shoulder. If, after I'm gone, you ever feel lonely, you could always find someone." "No need." Sophia cut me off. "Being alone's just fine. You're not looking to get hitched again either, are you? Even if you thought you loved him so much back then, when you really think about it, maybe it wasn't that deep, it was just unwillingness to let go." There was no way I could argue against that. What deep love, what undying affection, it was all just unwillingness to let go. Whether it's me, Sophia, Stephen, or Amanda. After turning him down that last time, my life settled back into calm. Not long after the lawyer's letter was received, they failed to appear in court for the scheduled divorce proceedings. Instead, my daughter called me. She asked, "You're both at your age. Do you really have to get divorced? Don't you care what people might say?" She made me laugh. Divorce isn't sleeping around. Why should I be ridiculed? The real joke is the one who betrayed. She was silent for a long moment before finally answering, "Fine. Just don't come crying with regrets later." On the day we finalized the divorce, Stephen's condition visibly deteriorated. He seemed completely spaced out. As if his body was still there while his soul had wandered off somewhere. But none of that was my business anymore. From then on, I wasn't Mrs. G, just Valentina, my own self. After the divorce, I went back to Kunming. The internet is a magical place. Once the hype dies down, new things pop up and people gradually forget about the old stuff, like nothing ever happened. 3 months later, I went with Sophia to the funeral of Daniel, who had cancer. Daniel's parents were younger than me, and the agony of burying their own child had left them utterly haggard. As we were leaving, Daniel's mother took Sophia by the hand and passed her a letter. "This is from Daniel. He asked me to hand it to you personally. He said he never regretted being with you in this lifetime, except not cherishing you enough. And in his final moments, he was still thinking about you. He wasn't avoiding you, he just couldn't bear letting you see him bald and gaunt as a skeleton." Sophia's expression was blank as she took the envelope with a flat O. After the Fu family left, Sophia tore the letter to shreds without hesitation and tossed it straight into the trash can. A good horse doesn't look back to graze. If you don't love someone, you just don't. When pursuing a girlfriend experiencing torturous melodramatic plotline stuff is disgusting. A closed chapter in my life. No point reading those sappy letters and messing with my peace. As she spoke, her face showed neither sorrow nor joy. I think she truly moved on. 6 months later, I actually ran into Stephen again. He stood in front of the flower shop once again, wearing a neatly pressed suit. Holding a bouquet of roses with a beaming smile. For a moment I was dazed, as if thrown back to the time we first met. He stood outside the office building with a bouquet of roses, waiting for me to finish work. Seeing me step out of the flower shop, he rushed over and cooed softly, "Val, done with work? Val, you're so beautiful. I really love you. Will you marry me? I promise to treat you right forever." I was stunned. The light in his eyes didn't look fake, but what's this act all about now? I immediately asked Stephen, "How old are you? Still pulling these stunts? We're already divorced. Please stop bothering me. Let us keep some respect between us, okay?" Hearing my words, he froze, muttering repeatedly, "Divorce? What divorce? But you haven't even said yes to my proposal yet." My daughter stepped out of the car and rushed to Stephen's side. "Dad, you're having another episode. Don't you remember you and Mom already got divorced? Come home with me and stop running around all the time." I didn't quite get what was happening, but I had a vague idea. My daughter explained, "Dad was diagnosed with dementia last year, and it's been getting worse. He forgets a lot of things, but somehow, he's never forgotten loving you. I know you two can't be together again, so I'll keep him in check and make sure he won't bother you anymore." Finally, she bit her lip and said, "Mom, I'm sorry I was so selfish and said things that hurt you. I'm sorry." Later, Stephen would still appear at my flower shop now and then, a bouquet of flowers in hand. At his worst, he even forgot who he was, but when passers-by asked, he'd still remember his beloved Val. Sophia told me all this. Later he was taken home by his daughter and put under 24-hour care, never getting lost again. The last I heard was that he had passed away at 76 the year I turned 70. His daughter called to tell me he kept calling my name until his last breath. But my heart remained still. As for Amanda, after ruining her reputation, she kept hanging around with various old men. Unfortunately, one time the old men's wives confronted her in the tussle. She accidentally fell down the stairs. Strangely enough, the stairs weren't that long or steep, but she struck the back of her head and died before reaching the hospital. Out of the three of us, only I lived to be 98. Sophia met me when she was 25 and I was 60. Now she's 63. I lay in my warm bed as she accompanied me through my final moments. I think she too will live out a happy life and pass away in a warm bed.